we're going to go ahead and get started. Today, we are talking about how to do business with LSU, and it's partnered with us, the Southern Region Minority Supplier Development Council. And we have some great people here with us from LSU. First, I'm going to introduce myself to everyone. My name is Ma'at Latham. I am the Community Outreach Coordinator for the Southern Region Minority Supplier Development Council for SRMSDC. And we have three guests with us from LSU. We have Shelly, Matthew, and Don. And I'm going to let them go ahead and tell you a little bit about their roles. And then after that, we're going to jump into our presentation. So I have Don. Don, you want to kick it off for us?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Don Lawhorn. I'm the Supplier Diversity Manager for Santa Fe University, LSU. A lot of you guys may be familiar with me because I used to work with SRMSDC on LSU. We essentially operate on all campuses. I work with them. That is LSU A&M Baton Rouge, Eunice, Alexandria, Shreveport, LSU Shreveport Health Science Center, LSU New Orleans Science Center, Pennington Biomedical Center, and LSU X. And basically, it's the same structure as SRMSDC. And since you guys are members, familiar with how diversity works, we try to facilitate LSU doing more business with the community and the minority and diverse community as a whole. Now, Matt, tell you his role at LSU.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Matthew Aboard. I'm CFO here at LSU Athletics. I've been with LSU for a little over 10 years now, all within our business office here at Athletics. And when I first started here, I was handling all of our procurement within athletics. So I've been involved on the procurement side since I've been here, and I've kind of started to supervise those who handle it in our office, and have watched that grow over the years. So I have a pretty good foundation of what our needs are and how we go about handling our purchases. And we've really just, with Don's help the last few years, are really trying to spread ourselves out a little more and increase our diverse spend. So I appreciate y'all having us here and look forward to sharing some more with y'all.
Hey, I'm Shelly Mullinex. I'm a long-term LSU employee of, I think at this point, close to 25 years. Spent most of my time in the athletic training department, but have since moved to administration. We'll talk a little bit more about, I guess, my role in a few slides from now, but specifically part of the efforts here within the athletic department to enhance our diversity outreach to local, state, national businesses, and in my role would be serving as a way to coordinate the information that we get from your companies out to our social media platforms, so that you can get a little bit more advertisement through our own platforms. So that's generally my role.
Shelly, thank you, Matthew, and thank you, Don. Before we get started with your presentation, I just want to let everyone know that if you want to kind of change the format of your viewing area, if you double click the screen, the middle of the screen, it'll kind of change the square. So some of you might right now might see the big LSU PowerPoint, and then you see us on the bottom of that as little squares. If you double click, then it will reorganize it so we're all equal squares. It just depends on how you want to view it. And another thing is, we are going to take a little break in the middle of the session to take questions, and then again at the end. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat area, and we're going to try to get to as many as we can, but you're going to have 2 opportunities to ask them some questions. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Thank you, guys.
All right, so once again, good afternoon. So we're going to be pretty loose on my end of the conversation because I'm going to let athletics do most of the talking, but so that you guys have a good idea about doing supply diversity at LSU, we pretty much consume everything that any major city would consume. I mean, we have a $5 billion impact on the state of Louisiana pretty much every year. We do everything from advertising, aircraft equipment, training services, maintenance, repair, software, engineering equipment, educational services, dairy equipment. I can keep going on and on. Municipalities, office supplies. I see someone said they do hotel, we rent hotel rooms. We do a lot of things of that nature. We also, I saw someone, engineering services, construction services. Right now we have the charity house project going on. That's a $300 million project in New Orleans. We have the full reconversion of LSU A&M, which is going to be an $800 million project for the next 10 years to bring up all the electrical and facilities. LSU Health Science Center in New Orleans has about 3 different projects going on, roughly $300 million worth of projects. Freeport has a facility going online, that's about $60 million. So you can see that we always have construction going on. We just finished 2 dorms. That was $90 million on LSU and campus. We always have something going on, always booming. So from that point on, I'm going to give you that and let that be what the very targeted dealing with.
Second, you guys, I have a little technical thing I'm trying to fix on the back end. The presentation just kind of cut off. I don't know if it's the signal, but just let you know I'm working on it on the back end while you guys are presenting. Okay, and then Don, I think the mic is going in and out right now. Can you try to say something real quick so we can see if it's working?
Hello, can you hear me right now? Is the mic going in and out?
It's better. It's better.
I think someone had their microphone on when I was talking. I heard some feedback.
Yeah, that was me working on the slide. I cut that. But you sound better now. You sound much better.
All right.
Okay, well, I will go into, from an athletics perspective, how our kind of main ways of purchasing, main ways of procuring items. So we typically have 3 ways. One is through a purchase order. So when we're talking purchase orders, we are talking everything from our professional service contracts to construction contracts to large dollar spends to anytime we purchase an item with a unit price above $1,000, that requires a purchase order. Any of our medical contracts, any of our really just overall consulting, anything of that nature, we're going to go with a purchase order. Anything that we have to do a competitive purchase for is going to be a purchase order. Anything we want to have a potential for a multi-year contract, that'll also end up in a purchase order. So, and just to give you a gauge, that's in last fiscal year, that's going to range anywhere from about $15 to $18 million of our spend is going to be through purchase orders. The other main option we have is our La Carte card. So our La Carte card is our procurement credit card that each of our employees have the option to have. Not all of them have it, but a lot of our end users do have a La Carte card. This allows them to go spend on small dollar items, allows them just to go pick up some supplies here and there, allows them to purchase food on those credit cards or, rental of any items such of that nature. But it tends to be a lot of our smaller dollar items, but because it's used so frequently across our department, that ends up being probably around $5 million of our spend is through our La Carte cards. And that's direct to consumers. So that's the direct spend. They do not have to do any competitive bidding when it goes on a La Carte card. They do not have to, obviously we want to know what they're purchasing, but they are in control of that and they are in control of that spend. So that's where we've seen a lot of, changes from our increase in diverse spending has been through that La Carte card. And then the last item is the least frequently used. It's what we call direct charge. And that is going back through campus to make the purchase, but really we're just going through campus to initiate the payment. So it's basically cutting a check or doing a bank transfer to someone who doesn't accept credit cards. So, and this is an instance where a purchase order is not necessarily required, but the vendor isn't comfortable taking a credit card. So we issue payment through a direct charge. And again, this is an opportunity where we have a lot of direct to consumer spend and we can go straight to a vendor without having to go through a competitive process because it typically lends itself to being more small dollar items. So in total, that's going to be anywhere from probably 2.5 to 3 million a year. So, if you add up each one's list, it's going to be around 25 million that we're spending through one of these main 3 avenues. So like I said, again, a wide variety of how we spend, but we have a pretty good grasp of what those commodities are, where they land within those 3 areas. And Shelley, I'll let you take over for the talk about the councils a little bit.
Sure. Thanks, Matt. So part of our efforts in trying to, frankly, level the playing field, we realized that our spend was not, equally distributed at all amongst, our providers in the city. And so midway through the summer, we really got together as a department and developed some councils, leadership council on diversity and inclusion. There's a student athlete council. So there's on that has a number of coaches, student athletes, the staff and coaches council, as well as the Black Student Athlete Association, which was something that was newly formed. And all those four councils kind of work in collaboration and in coordination with trying to advance our mission of diversity. And we've done a pretty good job, I think, this far. I'm happy at this point that it's continuing on. So it doesn't seem to be something that is, was in the moment and then kind of fizzled out. I think there's a lot of people within our department that are devoted to this project. We really have everybody on board, from the business office to the individual sports themselves, really trying to seek out diverse suppliers to be able to buy from. So that's really one of the reasons why we think this virtual vendor fair is so helpful for us, because it helps us make those connections that we really probably wouldn't be able to make on our own. So the diversity supplier program is, I mentioned earlier, is something that needed to be improved. We had, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, it was something like 0.08% of our budget was spent in minority businesses, which is, horrific. We had made a commitment to being completely transparent. And so part of our transparency is to really kind of know those numbers and make some legitimate changes there. There's lots of reasons why those numbers were actually lower than they probably are in reality, and that our system itself was not really designed to identify minority businesses, women-owned businesses, all the time, right? So as someone providing a service, you may have actually felt like it could have been a disservice by letting us know that you were a diverse vendor, right? In the way times work, sometimes people feel like that's not to their advantage. So we really are trying to obviously make a concerted effort to be able to track on those companies and really move our spending needle so that we can say that we have done something really to help our local community. Our end goal is really 10% of our spend, and that's hard because we have some items that are just ones that companies just are bidding for. One example would be for instance, our clothing contract with Nike. I mean, so there's a lot of spend in areas that really aren't open, but 10% has been a challenge for us. We've actually moved probably about 0.06%, I think, in the last couple months, but that is significant when we actually look at the dollars. So it doesn't sound very impressive when we're talking about percentages. One of the things I mentioned when we opened up was this Healthy Tiger website. So healthytiger.net is a new website that we have up and running, and it was really really created to create a better community. So a more diverse community, a community that wasn't based on just X's and O's and our wins and losses, that it was really kind of meant to bring people together, bring our department together. And part of that component is obviously the diversity component. So we have a group, our diversity supplier initiative group that we have formed. Its role basically is to find these businesses that we use, and then Healthy Tiger essentially writes a story and then puts that story on Healthy Tiger for everyone to see. So it goes on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and the site itself, which is viewed by the entire department, anyone who else that wants to actually have access to it, plus all of our alumni. The alumni numbers, as you can imagine, are pretty high. And it's probably worth shouting out right now to Jarvis Green, who I know is on this call. Jarvis is one of those guys that really has already benefited from this service. So he's got a service that we used over the last few months, and we were able to write a story about it and then put it on Healthy Tigers. So again, it goes out to a number of people. So that's really Healthy Tigers' service to the diversity end of things. So if you are a provider of ours that we end up using, we'll end up connecting back with you, finding out what it is that we purchased, and then writing a short story on it and basically advertising. So we don't call it advertising; it's a feature story. So we think that is helpful for us to allow others to know what we're doing, and also to the companies that we are working with to be able to have them benefit from the advertising.
All right, so next I'm going to go into, if you look at the slide now, kind of the pie chart we have there, and it's going to touch on some of the same things Shelly mentioned here, but I'm going to dive in specifically to our athletics diverse supplier committee. So to give you a little further background, so we started this committee probably last summer, July, August range, and we started it with the intent of, okay, what do we need? We have our campus program that Don runs, but what can we do from athletics? What can we do specific to athletics that continues to push the message throughout our department? And so as we got a group together and we started looking at it, and the first thing you always want to do is, all right, well, where are you at? Where's your spend at? And as Shelly mentioned, it was not in a good place. And there's, one, it's just we need to do a better job of it. But two, we weren't doing a very good job of tracking that spend within athletics. We weren't doing a very good job of reaching out to our vendors and understanding who was a minority-owned business and understanding how they're registered in our system. So we were reporting on what I felt like wasn't clean data. And so that was one of our initiatives out the gate was, hey, we really need to reach out and not tell people, hey, we need you to register, but tell businesses, this is what we're trying to do. Here's our goals. Here's our mission. Here's what we're set out to do, and hopes that would then get people to register in Workday, which, as Don knows, once you register in Workday, which is our accounting system here at LSU, then that's how we can track very easily our spend based on your classification, how you identify it during your registration process. And we'll go through that process here in a little bit. But that helps us to track our spend and to track it correctly and have what we'd like to call clean data going forward. So it gets a little bit difficult when vendors aren't registered in the system or vendors haven't necessarily checked all the profiles within the system. And then it also gets difficult for us when we use our La Carte card, because the benefit is we can control that spend and go direct to consumer. The disadvantage of that, it's difficult to report on because we don't have to gather the vendor's information to use our credit card. So those are the areas where we're trying to improve that, trying to clean that up, because as Shelly mentioned, our spend was below 1% with diverse suppliers. We set out a goal to get that to 10% across the department. And really we were putting a goal out there just to say, hey, we don't know where this is going to go, but let's put a goal, let's throw something out there and let's see if we can achieve it. And to date we're still struggling. We're just over 1%. But if you go back, that 1% now is about $250,000 for us this fiscal year. So from June 1st to date, it's been about $250,000. Our goal, as we said, is 10%. So let's say our goal is a year from now, I want that number to be at 2.5 million. And by goal, we just want that to be our minimum. If we can grow it even further, then that's fantastic. But that's what we're pushing for right now. And while we're not there yet, I do feel that we have, started to water our plants a little bit. We started to put ourselves out there. We started to educate not only our staff, but educate some of our vendors in the community of what we're trying to do. So while we haven't had significant growth yet, I do feel like we're building a solid foundation across the board. So to that point of our internal staff, so ways we're trying to educate them, we are now reporting on a monthly basis. So every month we send out our budget reports throughout our department, but we're also including their diverse spend report. So everybody's aware of where they are achieving some diversity spend and where they're not. As Shelly said, we're going with transparency across the board. And that's really sparked a lot of conversations because as soon as we put something out there and they say, hey, I know that I spent $5,000 this month, but you don't have it reported that way, Well, we'll reach out to that vendor, say, hey, look, we don't have you registered in our system. Let's get you registered. And it's really started to close some gaps. It's really started to fill some holes for us. And so we're really taking the approach of, if we can keep this on in everybody's frame of mind from month to month, we're going to grow it that way. And slower than we want, yes, but it is a constant push, and it's a concerted effort from the top down here in athletics. Let's see, and well, I guess I'll touch on some of the areas because we're going to go into opportunities later. But if I'm looking at this pie chart, just it might be a little bit small for some of you to see, but one of the largest areas, that purple, the biggest one, about 92,000, what we've spent year to date is in food. So that's where we've probably seen the biggest traction so far, because again, that goes back to a lot of our employees, particularly somebody who's associated with one of our sports team. When they go out to feed our athletes, they can control who they go to. And they've done a great job of shifting some of their spend over to some of our diverse food suppliers here in the community. So that's been a large one. Professional services, so that's a $78,000 spend. So that's anything from any consultant contracts, any third-party contracts such as our travel provider, and then any other various specialty contracts that we have. The next one is 43,000, and that's in our sports and equipment. So as Shelley mentioned, do we have some limitations with some of our apparel and equipments? Yes, because we have a contract with Nike, so we do have some restrictions on how much we have to utilize them. But we have found a couple of our sports, tennis being one of them, not all their products can come from Nike, and they were working with a diverse supplier already, and they've been able to drive that spend for us a little bit there. And then the list gets a little bit smaller, but just so you can see some of the items: medical and massage techs, software, nutritional supplements, which again is feeding our student athletes. So that's our protein shakes, that's our protein bars, that's our nutritional value that we're providing them. Medical supplies, audiovisual supplies, printing, and then just some of our larger categories right now. So again, constantly trying to grow that, but that gives you a little bit of a framework of some of the spend we do have out there. I think the next slide we're going to go to is how to register here with us. And what I'm going to do to make this easier for everybody is I'm going to put the link in the chat right now so that you can access that link, and that is how you register with LSU to become a vendor in Workday. So again, this is important because, one, in order to have a purchase order that I mentioned earlier, you have to become registered in Workday. For us to issue a contract, we have to have you as a supplier. And when you click on that link, just to kind of highlight some of the items you'll be asked for when you go in there, it's typically your general information. So anything that is on your W-9, they're going to ask you to input that. They're going to ask for all of your contact, your business address, your payment address, everything that would be associated probably with your business profile. And then they're going to ask you how you want to be paid, whether you want to get paid by credit card. We do ACH transactions. We'll issue a check still. We'll do wire transfers. And then it's going to ask you your supplier group. So this is going to ask you, do you do advertising, catering? Do you sell furniture? What services do you provide? And now this is a key, because this helps us when we go into competitive purchases and we need to go select and search for vendors. This helps us find vendors in those certain categories. That helps us identify which vendors can help us in which commodities. So again, and you can select as many as you need in that area, but it is very important for us to have you go through and take the time and select the ones that apply to your business. And then the documentations will help you. That's going to put your relevant certification. So that's going to let us know if you selected in general information, if you selected, hey, I'm a women-owned, veteran-owned, minority-owned, then you can upload those certifications here. And again, that is very important for us, especially on the reporting on the back end, because this is what makes the reporting easy for us, is you identify yourself during the registration process, And then from there, we spend the dollars with you, and then we're able to report on it on the back end.
I want to take a quick break if you guys don't mind. We have some questions in the audience. So we're going to take a few of those questions right now. Mark asked a great question earlier. He said, what are your competitive purchase thresholds? Can one of you?
Yes. So our thresholds, so we have from a goods items, so from purchasing items, we have 3 levels. We have anything between 10,000 and 25,000. So 10,000 is our minimum threshold. So I'll always use the example of, let's say I go out and purchase soccer balls. I want to go purchase soccer balls, and it's going to cost me $12,000. Well, I've got to go bid for those soccer balls. And that 10,000 to 25,000 level, that's a 1-day bid that we send out to 3 vendors. So we've got to include a minimum of 3 vendors. We can include however many we want, but that's a 1-day bid. Once we jump above 25,000 to 50,000, that's a 72-hour bid, and that's got to go out to 5 vendors. And then the last threshold is 50,000. So anything above 50,000 is going to be posted to the state LAPAC website, and that's going to be an official 21-day bid that'll get shared there. Professional services is another area where we have a bid threshold, and right now that threshold's at 75,000. So if you're a consultant, you do provide some other specialty services. If you're under 75,000 and below, we do not have to do a competitive purchase. But once you trigger above 75, and that's 75 for the fiscal year. So thinking July 1st through June 30th. So we can't set up, 12 $10,000 contracts and get under, circumvent any of our competitive bid requirements. It's what you plan to spend during that fiscal year. If it goes over to 75 in this professional service case, then we have to do a bid. And then the last big one is software, and that is, I still believe that one's at 100,000. If you provide a software, if it's under 100,000, we can purchase direct. Once it goes over 100, then we have to issue a bid for that.
CJ had a question it related to that. She said, is it lowest price or open? Are you open to the best value?
So if we do an invitation to bid where we are putting, hey, here's what we want, here are the specifications, come back with the cost. When we issue those types of bids, it is lowest cost. As long as you meet the specs, it's lowest cost. Where we do have different types of bids, we have some requests for proposal, requests for, I think it's quote and qualifications. This is times where we'll submit a bid, and price is one of the factors, but we also ask for you to submit your experience. We ask for you to submit references. We ask for you to submit, your organization, like technical. And let me give you an example. So our security services here that works all of our LSU athletic events. So they staff hundreds of people on a football game day. They're kind of our ticket takers. They are marshals in the stadium, etc. Well, for that bid, when we issue it, we're not issuing it just off a low price. We issue that bid and we ask for all this information, references, qualifications. We ask for how you're going to staff the place. We ask for your training manuals. We ask for a lot of items to where that we don't have to award it just on low cost. We can find somebody who we believe is going to provide us the best value. So while a lot of them do still go off low cost, we do have that option to issue a bid where we can try to award it on best value.
Thank you, LeVay. I hope that answered your question too, because I saw you had a similar question earlier. LeVay just dropped us another question. Do you recognize any federal cooperative purchasing programs?
Yes, we do. We recognize quite a few of them. Off the top of my head, E&I is one of the big ones I know that we utilize. And what we've typically done there is if we find we need a service or items that we want to get, we will, our procurement office and state of Louisiana's procurement will allow us to work with cooperative endeavors. And essentially what we do is we pull that agreement down from one of those cooperatives, and we try to adopt it. We try to mold it into our specific LSU purchase agreement. Sometimes when we pull it down, we still may do a one-day bid just to find out, make sure that we're getting the best value. But if you are a member of one of those federal programs, there's a good chance we will be able to utilize that.
All right. Thank you. Okay, Mark, one more. We're going to take one more question, Matt and Don and Shelly, if you guys don't mind, and then we can jump back into the presentation. Mark has a question. Mark wants to know, what is the maximum expenditure amount for an a la carte card purchase?
So typically for most 95% of our in athletics of our individuals with credit cards, their threshold is going to be $5,000.
Okay. Okay. All right.
In other departments, it varies. And in other departments, it varies based on a person's position.
Okay. All right. And what are those varying amounts, Don? Or can you give us an example?
I really can't. I mean, my La Carte card is up to 50,000.
Thank you.
So it's really, we have roughly over 200 people who have procurement authority just at A&M alone.
Okay.
Yeah, and to that point, we'll have, if you're new with athletics, we're probably going to start you at 1,000. Once you show some responsibility, then you're gonna get to 5,000, and then to get above that, you have to go through more advanced procurement training to go above that. So that's why we have very, very minimal who are above 5,000, similar to probably Don and them. It's going to stay lower, but you can work yourself higher.
All right. Okay. Someone had you know what? Sherilyn, we're going to get to some of those examples of different things that they're looking for. And so when the gentlemen talk about that, then that might answer your question. And just to let you guys know, Shelly jumped off, so we're going to it's going to be Matt and Don and I for the rest of our event. All right. So now you guys want to go ahead and discuss the different vendors that you are looking for?
Yes.
Am I jumping the gun on it, Matthew?
No. That's perfect.
All right.
No, that's where we're headed next. So, yeah, what we want to do is talk about. I've kind of touched on some of the commodities, but we can go a little more in depth on a few of them, and really to make you aware of some of the large ones that are going out there right now. So each year, I talked about briefly and earlier on, we have to issue a purchase order if we're going to do a contract, which we refer to as a term contract, that's going to have the opportunity to be multi-year. So if it's typically we'll do these term contracts, and we'll do a 3-year contract. And basically what it says is 1 year. And then at the end of that year, if both athletics or LSU is happy with the service and the vendor is still able to offer that same price, we can extend. So these tend to be, we do this with some of our larger contracts because we don't want to go out to bid every year on some of these big ones, because they are pretty extensive bids. They take time. And so once we find somebody, and if it works and it works for all parties, we'd like to be able to work with them for at least 2 or 3 years. After 3 years, regardless of how great the relationship is, it does have to go back out for bid. So I'm kind of going to probably just ramble a little bit as I go through some of them, but 2 of our biggest ones that are about to hit the street right now, because they do have to go out for bid, is, as I touched on earlier, our event service staff. So currently Landmark holds that contract. And if you come to a football, basketball, any of our athletic events, these are the individuals typically wearing the yellow shirts that are doing the ticket taking. They are ushering you to your seats. They're kind of our marshals within the stadium. So this bid's going out, and we spend upwards of $1.5 million on this service every year. So that is a very large one, probably our largest term contract that goes out, and it'll be out hopefully in the next week or 2. Another one is cleaning of our facilities. So we do a contract for what we call special event cleaning, which is the cleaning after each of our before and after each of our, basketball, football, baseball games, etc. And that contract is probably going out here in the next couple of weeks, and we spend just shy of $1 million on that each year. So that is another large one that's going to be going out. The third one that we're working on is, you see there, the tents. We rent a lot of tents, a lot of tents, tables, those type of party type event rentals. And we're going to be putting that out, and that's going to go out probably next in about a month or so. And again, that'll be try to get a 3-year contract with that. And that's several hundred thousands, probably in the $300,000 range that we spend through that contract. So those are the 3 big ones that we have out there right now. I'm going to just kind of, excuse me as I just kind of read through a list just to give you an idea of some of the other ones that are out there. We do laundry and dry cleaning service. So this is for a lot of our equipment room. They're cleaning all the uniforms, practice uniforms. And there's certain times where they can do it on their own in-house, but there's certain times where we have to outsource those services. So that's a big one that goes out there. Another one is our paint. So literally our painting of the fields, painting of the lines, you see it on the football stadium, painting of the graphics you see in our softball field, all of the paint that's required to do that. That's another large one we put out there. Screen printing. So we do screen printing for T-shirts, and we do embroidering for T-shirts. So as I mentioned, a lot of times while we don't have Nike, we have to wear Nike products. A lot of the stuff we order from Nike comes to us without any logos on it. So we take those shirts, we take those pants, whatever it may be, and we send it to go have them embroidered to put our logos, our marks on it. So that is a lot of business for us, and that is high volume. And that's one of our term contracts that go out there. Again, going back to, nutritional supplements. Anything of that. We are constantly feeding our athletes. They eat all the time. I don't know how they eat as much as they do, but they do. And we are any type of large nutritional protein bar contracts we can have, we'll always bid those out each year. AV rentals, we are constantly putting out TVs, large LED boards, sound systems, speakers, etc. When we're putting on events, when you see the team walking down the hill for a football game, and we have the sound system out there, that type of equipment, we are renting that on an annual basis. Let me see what else we have. Similar to the Landmark, what I talked about, the event security, we also have parking lot security. So it's a little bit of a smaller call out from a personnel standpoint, but this group would be the ones who manage all of our parking lots throughout our venues. And then the last one I was going to touch on is we do some pool maintenance work. So we have our natatorium, which is where we house our swimming and diving team, and we outsource kind of the maintenance and the care for that pool. So that's another area where that's a high volume one that we utilize each year. And then we do have some labor contracts that we put out there just to help us with movement of equipment, help us with our setups in the PMAC, are constantly taking down floors, putting up floors, taking down gymnastics equipment. So we have some labor contracts that'll go out there. But that gives you I think a pretty wide range of what we touch on. Now, a lot of those are kind of our bigger contracts, and it doesn't really go to the supplies. But as you can think of we're like any other business, from everything from your office supplies also to our sports and goods supplies. So we constantly need those. We're constantly working through medical supplies, soft goods, braces, etc. And then we also have our own facilities group within athletics. So we go through a lot of facility supplies, maintenance, hardware type items. Again, those aren't necessarily ones we're putting out to bid, but those are areas where our end users have kind of direct to consumer spend. They can go use their card for those purchases.
Y'all, I don't know about you guys, but I'm so excited about all these opportunities that Matt has been telling us about. I don't know, I'm just getting excited about the fact that we are starting to work with LSU and our MBEs are going to be able to connect with you guys. And I just had to give you guys a go shout out in that chat area. Go MBEs, go LSU. I mean, go SRMSDC, go supplier diversity. Thank you, Matt. Thank you for telling us about everything that you guys have coming up. And I want everyone to, like he said, there are 3 big things that are coming up within the next month, you said, Matthew, or was it 2 months?
Yeah, within 2 of them within the next month, and then another one in the next 2 months.
Okay, all right. And so for them to make sure that they are getting notified as they're posted, how do they do that? Is that once they register in your system, they'll get an automatic notification when you post those things, or is there a central place they need to continue to look at every day and see if they're up?
So for these, because these will be the large bid opportunities, so they will get posted to the state's website.
Okay.
But what you can do is, if this is one of those ones that I listed, if that's where you say, hey, this is my field, send us your information, and we'll let our procurement buyer know. And what they do is they'll send, when that link gets posted, they will send it out to the various vendors. We say, hey, these groups would like to bid on it, and they'll send that link directly to you so that you can go access the state website. But I'm always going to tell you to go register in Workday too, because it's going to help us. At some point, even if you don't get that one, when you get the next bid or the next opportunity, we need you in Workday.
So it's like you guys do your part, help them, help you. Make sure you register. So we did see,
And also keep in mind that, keep in mind that when you register, this Office of Supply Diversity gets requests from procurement. So anytime a solicitation goes out there trying to find a diverse supplier, they ask us to find. So if we know you're in the system, we know you're there, I reach out to Mark all the time to ask and give him the things that we're looking for. We're constantly reaching out to the organization to see. We don't have you in our system, who can actually perform you. And Matt calls me directly, tells me what's coming. We do a lot of hands-on.
So what Don was saying is that once you guys are registering that system, they know you're there and they're able to reach out to you. So that helps Don also, it helps him like get in touch with you because you're in that system. So please make sure you register. So I saw there were some more questions, you guys, in the audience. If y'all don't mind, we're gonna take some of those questions. Let's see, where are we? Timmy, I think Matthew kind of helped us touch upon your question about the multi-year agreements when he gave us some examples of people who, do have multi-year agreements right now with them. Then do you have job fairs? So yes, do you guys have job fairs coming up? Any job?
Well, COVID has stopped all the outreach. The only outreach we've done has been what we're starting to do now, doing business with you guys, because we can't really do face-to-face interaction anymore.
Okay, so they're virtual, if any?
For right now, everything is virtual.
Yeah, and I think Don was working on some stuff for this spring. Should we've been able to come back, and that's something we want to continue to grow. And because it helps to have vendors come out to campus and be able to come and show us what they are able to provide. So I know we'll work towards that once COVID allows us.
Okay. All right. So now we have LeVay. LeVay wants to know, do you have any opportunities regarding construction?
Well, construction opportunities are always ongoing. As I stated before, we have construction in New Orleans on Charity Hospital. We have construction in Baton Rouge on 2 dorms. We have construction in Shreveport on a new office building. There's always construction in the hundreds of millions of dollars going on every day. A&M, we have an $800 million project right now that was just announced maybe a month ago to revamp the entire campus. So there's always construction.
Great. All right. Here's another question. Who can we contact regarding branded merchandise?
As far as branded merchandise goes, we have a branding officer who actually sits next door to me. And you have to get a licensing agreement if you're going to print LSU's logo on it, which is relatively cheap. I think it's maybe $200. It's the process they have to go through in order to become.
Oh, that is a good deal. That is great. All right. So let's see. Kenny Burke asked, what information can you provide for all natural cleaning products sorry, this thing is moving as I'm reading. Cleaning products along with new innovative equipment to combat COVID-19. We do offer these things. So he wants to let you know, you guys, we got somebody out in the audience who offers services in regards to cleaning and sanitizing for COVID. Can you guys just talk a little bit about the efforts that you guys have going on right now as far as that, and maybe some of the companies that you're working with? Not specifically, but like what services they're offering?
Yeah, so from an athletic standpoint, when we started to get back in venue and started to have fans come back, we had to go through everything and buy all the, I'm not even going to be able to say the machines right, but there's fogging machines, everything that was helping to clean the surfaces. So we went through and procured a handful of those over the course of the fall. Probably the biggest item we have bought and continue to buy is just hand sanitizer. I don't think that's going away anytime soon. That'll be around and in our facilities. And then we've also, the cleaning group that I talked about, that bid that's out there, their group has been the one that has assisted us in kind of the extra cleaning that has to occur. But if you have specific products or there's specific items, our facilities group, along with campus facilities, they're constantly working together. So I mean, if you have stuff, we ask you send it over, and we'll get that in the right hands and let them review it.
All right. Do you have, okay, so here's a question from the audience. Are you open to alternate solution systems that are already in place? So, are you open to alternate solutions to systems that are already in place?
Yes.
And so, okay.
That's been one of the biggest things at athletics. We're trying to, hey, don't just do business with who you're comfortable with. Don't just go back to the same old way of doing things because, it works, but you haven't tried anything else. It works because you're used to it. So we're trying to push that narrative. We're trying to get people to be open to change and find, like I said, find little areas, find many vendors out there, as many as we can, to help us out. And that way you've got a realistic kind of competition out there. You've got people able to showcase, and you might find something better on the other side. So, and that's what we're trying to get to. We're trying to get people to get out of what they're used to and just going back to the same vendor, et cetera.
Yeah, it's like, let's get out of the norm because that's how we grow. So, yeah, I'm glad you're encouraging that. Don, people keep saying, who do I contact? Who do I contact? Karen was like, who do I contact about opportunities involved in construction? Karen, contact Don.
I put all our contact information in the chat box.
Yep, y'all, Don's info is in the chat box. All right, let's.
If I'm not available, then Elizabeth will take your call.
Wait, say it again, Don. If you're not available, who?
If I'm not available, then I put Elizabeth and my information both in the chat box. So either way, there's always somebody available to answer any question. We will help you reach out to a specific person.
And what's Elizabeth's role?
She is the supply diversity specialist.
Okay, great.
So she's going to be sending out the newsletters, doing everything else with the marketing campaigns, that type of stuff.
So you guys, I would say from this, me personally, even though I'm not a supplier, I would say the two things that I would take away right now would be to register with LSU, to get involved with LSU by registering. And then if I have any questions about opportunities, reach out to Don or Elizabeth, and their info is in that chat area. All right, let's see if we have any more questions here.
I did see one question pop up a little while ago, and maybe it was they had a staffing service, a staffing business. And one thing I want to add to that is, even if it's not directly with LSU, so whoever wins this landmark, who has it now, the staffing, that third-party vendor is going to reach out to local staffing companies. Our concessions group, Airmark, who runs our concessions at all of our events, they go through staffing. I mean, they're trying to staff over 1,000 people for a football game. So they're going to use local staffing companies. And along those lines, I saw somebody put their lemonade vendor, and while our teams may not go directly to you, concessions, that's where we're looking for subcontractors to come in and sell different items at our venues. So we can connect you with our concessionaire Airmark, and they would be the ones to hire you as a subcontractor. But that's another opportunity, another way to get the foot in the door here.
Wow, you guys, we are getting some really great information right now from Matthew and Don. I almost feel like we're learning secrets, but this is open knowledge. And that's why we are hosting this event, so that we can make sure that you guys get that information. And you guys have no idea how much I appreciate the two of you for taking time out of your day just to talk to our MBEs and, talk to our audience about how they can get involved and engage with you. So, okay, more questions. This is great because we have about 10 more minutes for questions. So if you guys have any questions, just make sure you keep dropping them in the chat area. I'm going to keep telling Matt and Don about them. And I'm going to keep reading it to them. And we're going to just take full advantage of this time that we have these gentlemen with us. What is the...
Now, I'm going to call one specific person out because I'm looking at the list of participants. All right. Paola. They need to be registered with LSU. We've had requests for stuff like that a few times over the last 12 months.
Don said, Paola, come on down. Get on this registration list.
and I have no one in the database who fits that description.
All right. So CJ, she asked, what's the craziest thing you have had to procure for?
Oh, man.
Look at these laughs. Don said, which one can I share? No, I'm joking. I'm being funny.
I mean, it's nothing crazy because you think of it as a city, so we get requests for everything. I mean,
well, can I say, okay, so maybe not crazy, but like, what were some things that whenever you saw, you were like, oh, I didn't even know we sourced for that. Like
monkeys.
Wow. Monkeys. Was it for like a pep rally or something?
No, labs. The labs needed monkeys.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
We had to find monkeys.
Is that monkey business? No, I'm joking.
It's monkey business. There you go.
Oh my goodness. How interesting. And was it hard, Don, to find someone to provide monkeys, or is there like
there's always a monkey for sale somewhere.
Great note taken from that. Okay. There's always a monkey for sale somewhere. All right. Let's see. What other, Matthew, has anything ever caught your eye and you were like, okay.
We've had some crazy things. Don probably sees a little bit more. One that's, I don't know if it's as crazy, but it's just we come up with some wild ideas. Our football team a couple of years ago came up with, they wanted a mechanical quarterback, to basically a robot to throw the football so that they didn't always have to have a quarterback there to throw to their receivers. And one that could pick the route and throw it exactly to the spot. So it's always little things like that. Coaches, they have crazy ideas of what's going to make them win, and they need it right then and there. So it's always entertaining what they come up with. And, usually if you just wait a month, they'll move on to something else. But sometimes they stick to it and they've got to have it.
Y'all, that automated quarterback thing, that's really cool. Did you guys find one of those?
Did.
Did you find a robot quarterback? You did?
Yeah, they had somebody they had a couple groups that were producing them. So now how much they use it and stuff, I don't know. But
oh my gosh, y'all, that'd be so cool. I could just imagine myself as a student athlete, and then I come to practice one day and I look on my field and I'm like, Coach, what is that? And it's like a big purple painted robot that's getting ready to throw a ball at me. Like, this is our secret weapon. Like, wow, okay. All right, let's see. I know for me, just from this event, when you guys mentioned like nutritional supplements, like sports bars and stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Like, I never even thought about something like that. So even though to you guys it's common, like to people like us who aren't in your world, I'm just like, oh, that's awesome. All right. So let's see. Do we have any more questions?
I see Sherilyn put a question in the question and answer session. So yes, we do use caterers, all different kinds. And then I think Matt touched upon it. We have Aramark, but we also use caterers in the actual facilities themselves. And we have someone who sells lemonade at LSU Stadium.
There we go, caterers. Do we have any caterers here? They do. They do. They look for you guys. All right, Jeannie, any opportunities in the area of water metering, breeding, and maintenance?
I'm not sure if we had. I mean, right now we're doing a whole facilities upgrade, so that's where that type of stuff is going to come into play with the new contract awarded a month ago. That's that $800 million project that's going to go over the next 10 years.
Okay. All right. Let's see. I'm going to scan one more time to see if I missed any questions. If you guys see any questions I may have missed, just let me know. I think we've addressed everyone's questions, and we're doing really good. We have about a few minutes left. So, gentlemen, I'm going to open it up. Last final call for questions. Does anyone have any more questions before I wrap the event up? All right. So, Don and Matthew, I just want to let you guys know that we have a lot of people who shared their company info in this chat area. So I am going to extend the time on the platform, even though we're going to close out our events, so that you guys can just kind of go through there and just get a feel for the MBEs who joined us today. So you can see the wide variety of people who are, doing business on the other side. So I'm going to leave that open for you guys to just browse through. And then I just want to tell you all, thank you. You, Shelly, I mean, we really appreciate, you guys taking the time out to participate in this small talk, doing business with LSU virtual event with us. Thank you so much. So that's about it for today. I keep seeing stuff in this chat area, and April wants to let you guys know that she's getting registered. She's going to get, here's another question. What regulations do you follow to ensure that your competitive bids are fair for all companies who are competing for contracts?
State procurement law. So we follow state procurement code, and we are federal procurement codes too. So we follow basically federal and state laws.
They follow the laws, you guys. so they follow.
Look, federal and state. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we follow the procurement codes for federal and state.
Yeah, and
well, maybe they don't really understand, Don, what that looks like and what those codes might be. I don't know if that's what he was saying.
That's so, and I think to our central. So we have a central procurement office on campus, and that is that their role is, when we do bids, when we filter any of these larger purchases through them, they're the experts in this area, and they are applying those laws that Don mentioned. They're the ones that are keeping athletics, other entities on campus, keeping us in check and making sure that our specs are fair. They're not closed specs. They're not limited to one or two vendors. They make sure that it is an open, fair competition.
Yes. So they have an accountability system. Most education systems, you guys, have accountability systems built in to make sure that they are meeting those local and federal and state expectations or rules. And so that's what Matthew was saying. They do have someone in-house who helps make sure that they're doing that.
Matt, I saw another question for you regarding getting caterers in the box, in the suite area, in the box.
So that is a separate provider. Drake's, a local catering company. They handle all of the food service in that area, but we can make a connection. If whomever put that, if they want to reach out, I'll type my email again in the chat box, but I will make a connection with them and see if there's an opportunity there.
See, you guys, that's why you guys need to keep coming to our Doing Business With events for these type of connections. Thanks, Matthew. All right, Don, did you see any more questions? Because I'm glad you caught that one.
I think we hit them all.
All right. I'm registered. Oh, Sherilyn. Oh, good. This kind of speaks to the next steps. And then after this question, we are going to wrap it up for today. She said, I am registered. I'm registered at LSU. What do I do now?
Shoot me an email.
Shoot Don an email.
Because actually, I mean, so that way we can see who's in the system. So once you get registered, let us know you got registered, so that way we can look at your profile, make sure we know what you do. So when people start sending requests, it's a lot easier to go to it if we're more familiar with who you are rather than just looking at the name.
All right. Thank you. So as Charlotte said, you guys in the chat area, this was extremely beneficial. This was some great information. And you guys, if you guys have any more questions, go ahead and contact Don, send him an email. And the person who had that question specifically for Matthew, and Matthew addressed that one, make sure you follow up with Matthew so he can make that connection for you. And Don, Delia, if you scroll through the chat, you can scroll back up. Everybody has already put their contact info in there, so Don's email address is in there. And like I said, I'm gonna change the settings on this session so you guys can, once we finish up, you can scroll through the chat area. You'll have another hour just to go through and get everybody's contact info. All right, so thank you once again, you guys, for joining, and you guys have an amazing day. And our audience members, I just want you all to have an amazing day too. All right. Thanks for another great event.
Thank you.